All right, let's talk about creating a project in Python. So I've got my Python 3.6.1 shell, and this is the IDE. And if I come up here in my file menu, and I drop down, I can create a new file. Now, this is just the Python shell running right here. And if I run code in this shell, it doesn't exist. It's not what we call persistent. So it's only good for running in the IDLE. So we're going to come over and create a new file. Here we go, popped up on one of my other screens. And it's called Untitled. We'll go File, and we'll save it. And I'll call it 9. So now I've got this Python file called 9, and you can see that it's in my C, Python 3.6, 9.py is what it's called. And if I go ahead and I generate some code in my file, I go back and I'll save it. At this point, I can run it. Okay? And I could just click F5, but I'll run it from up here. And now here it goes. It's gone over to the shell, what we were looking at before, and this is my code being executed. Okay, so with that said, here's my py file. The work's taking place here. The results are being displayed here. So if I compared this to the exercises that you do in MindTap, the shell is kind of like what you'll see on the right-hand side of the screen. It's where you interact with the code. This py file is what you would see in the center pane of MindTap. Okay? So when you press the button to execute your code, test it, or run it, it's no different than coming up here and doing run module. And there it goes and runs again. Okay? So that's how we create the Python file and run the Python code. Now, I can interact with it. Once it's running, I can interact with it here in the shell. All right. Now, with that said, get this out of the way. This py file right here, not my 9.py, that is the file that you would need to submit as your end product. Now, depending on the assignment, you would need a Word document explaining what it is that you've done, why you created this code, and your pseudocode in it. You would also need, up to a certain point, a Raptor flowchart. And Raptor only works up to a certain level of the course. We go way beyond the scope of Raptor in this course. But I want you to get comfortable with creating flowcharts to test and see, does your logic play out the way that you think it will when it comes to the code? Well, sometimes you have a great idea, and I think this will work a certain way, but then when you go lay it out in the flowchart, you realize, oh, I forgot something, and I didn't realize that this was dependent on something else, or where that came from, things like that. And when we put our code into that logical progression in a flowchart, then we test the logic to see, when do things have to happen, what are they dependent on, and how is this all going to play out? How is it going to work together in the big picture? Once we have that, then we'll break down that logic into our Python code, like we see here. So I've got a couple of variables. We actually have 3 variables. We've got a calculation that takes place here, and then we've got some output statements. And you can tell this is Python 3 because we have to typecast or convert my current age to a string, and then we concatenated it here with my current age is. pass that value to the print function. That's a built-in function. Okay. So I'll see you in another video.